it's interesting to the research about the brain, what is shown, and it shows that first of all that the brain is where the brain continues to develop. Up until the early 1960s, people thought that the brains developed for the first 5 years of life, I think, and then it stopped. But now they find that the brain continues to develop your whole lifetime. And but it's interesting that action triggers neurons, and the neurons lay down pathways. And so if it's an old action, so when our brains were developing and we were developing defenses and having emotional reactions and all that, pathways were being laid down in our brains. And so now it's easy to go down the old pathways. It's just like it's easy to take the same route to work every day. But to take a different action lays down a new pathway, and that has to be more intentional. It's like if you take a new route to work, you're sort of aware of how you're going and what's on around you. That's the way you take new action, lays down new pathways. But if you keep taking that new action, that pathway becomes more defined, and then it becomes more automatic. And the other thing that's interesting, if you don't do an action, the old pathways become less, when they're not used, they go away. So it's interesting that your actions actually are either making old pathways deeper, or they're building new ones and then making those deeper. So if you don't listen to the voice and you take different actions, then you're going to form different neural pathways in your brain, and that's going to make real change occur.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in a relationship, an example of that would be somebody who was not an affectionate person, somebody who tended to be sort of withdrawn. And but it was left over from childhood, because nobody wants to be withdrawn. Everybody wants affection, but it was a self-protective way that she grew up. So she could make herself be affectionate, and it wouldn't come with a feeling of, oh, I feel so, easy doing this. She would feel a lot of attacks on herself. She would feel awkward. She might feel embarrassed. But if she went ahead and did it, doing the action of being affectionate, it would become natural, and the voices would subside. So that's sort of and meanwhile, new pathways would be being laid down in her brain so that it would become a natural behavior for her.